Hello and welcome to the British Chamber of Commerce Singapore's podcast channel. We're thrilled to present in-depth discussions on business, global affairs and news across Singapore, ASEAN and the United Kingdom. Thank you for your continued support and we hope you enjoy this episode.
Hi, I'm Gwyn. I'm chair of the Sustainability and Resilience Committee at BritCham. But today, I'm really happy to be talking to you, Fotis. Can you just give a quick introduction as to what you do at LRQA?
That's a great question. I mean, our portfolio is quite broad.
Yeah.
And actually, recently, we just introduced 5 solutions because we're trying to concentrate, especially in the energy sector. And we try to offer our solutions by calling them safety, quality, climate, responsible sourcing, and cyber. And the reason why we created this solution is because we started realizing that risk today in any new project or an existing facility has changed completely.
Yeah.
And what used to be called risk back in the days that used to be a tick exercise, today has become more resilient.
Yeah.
There are cyber threats, there are supply chain risks. So my role here is to work with the team that we have across Asia Pacific to ensure that we're supporting our clients to build trust for their clients, in a nutshell.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is exactly why I was keen to cover this session, because it's very relatable to me, what Arup does in our projects. We're very aware of a lot of the risks, and I think you would help provide that assurance to companies. But maybe just what does in general an assurance company do? So thinking of listeners who perhaps may not know LRQA, what does an assurance company actually do within the energy sector?
I mean, we can start and we can get involved in various stages of any kind of asset. So we can work with the lenders, we can work with the APCs, we can work with the owners to help them from the concept or design phase identify risks for the operation of the asset over the next 20, 30 years. Now, the risks can be physical risks, can be supply chain risk, can be cyber risks, can be major disasters, can be also ethical sourcing, because especially today that the world is very much connected, and we all know what has happened when it goes to raw materials and the way they've been extracted, that's another risk, especially for reputable companies and the new legislation that has come. So overall, we try to cover the life asset of the facility from end to end.
It seems that actually this risk management and assurance should be embedded with any sensible business strategy.
Of course, yeah.
Right? So I guess just moving on to that point a little bit more. So how has the role of risk management evolved from simply checking against standards to helping businesses actually navigate the broader risks?
And exactly, you nail it, because it used to be a tick exercise. It used to be a tick exercise in order to get either the license to operate or in order to get the financial aid to build the asset. It has evolved because now you need to give more credibility to your lenders. You need to give more credibility to the surroundings. So risk management now has been integrated through the entire operation of the asset or the facility. And let's not forget what is happening in the Middle East. I mean, energy security now is becoming something new that we're not talking previously about energy security. We're talking about energy transitions. But now the energy security or the security overall of a facility, because of the geopolitical changes, is something new. And that's another risk that we never took into consideration. So now lately we see a lot of more degradation and a lot of more, the countries wants to become more independent. And that creates additional risk. Do you have the necessary supply chains? Do you have the qualified people in the country? Do you have the resources in country? And all of these are getting connected.
Yeah, probably something to add that might be the data side.
Of course, data and technology. Yes,
yeah,
of course, absolutely.
So that's a big thing, and lots of decision making also needed as well. Must admit, within the Sustainability and Resilience Committee, we're becoming more aware that a lot of businesses actually do worry a bit about what they should and shouldn't do in terms of sustainability. And just to reference something, so that there's the net zero tracker actually suggest that just 4% of corporate net zero targets actually meet minimum robustness criteria, and this is very small, and perhaps surprising as well. Now, LRQA, I believe, has carried out some of your own research, and so just to quote something. Your own research suggests that only 21% of organizations feel confident they have the data to report their net zero progress credibly. So, I mean, as you're clearly nodding, so these are startling numbers. What's going wrong? And where's this gap?
It's not what goes wrong. I mean, when we started introducing back in the days net zero targets, about 2030, 2050, all the organizations made bold statements. But then you mentioned it, data. And the way to start capturing and measuring all these statements. And then the organization started realizing the complexity of start measuring how to achieve net zero. And this is where the problem is. I believe there's still the commitment of the organizations to go towards net zero, but the infrastructure is not still in place. And of course, when you're going to start seeing transfers of assets from country to country where there are still different legislative frameworks and not a common language, it's becoming even more complex. And this is where LRQA, we can support organizations to start measuring within robust frameworks their emissions and start achieving the net zero journey.
So currently, this is a confidence gap. Do you feel that this is costing the energy transition, and in what kind of ways?
I would say it's a combination of both, because not achieving your commitment, you can increase your risk and you can start creating some reputation damage because you have already done a bold statement. So you need to continue working towards your strategic objective. When it goes about confidence, I wouldn't say there is the confidence. Perhaps the supply chain and the infrastructure is not there and is not where it should be. This is perhaps the gap. But at the same time, the entire industry is working towards closing this gap. Of course, if we want to start looking regions to regions at different pace. Some regions are far more advanced, some other regions, they are not where they should be because of different geopolitical situations, which I would like not to go there.
But, you know, there are some examples of things actually going right in the region, and we've come across this offshore wind project. So the Taiwan Fengmiao 1 project, you're clearly familiar with it too. It's the first offshore wind project in Asia to reach financial close without government subsidies, and that's huge. I mean, it's by huge, it's 3.1 billion raised. That's been purely from corporate power purchase agreements, and really important to see this from the region. What do you see across APAC energy projects? What does independent assurance actually need to deliver to give lenders and the investors the confidence to commit at that kind of scale?
I mean, the independent technical integrity, because they need to give the confidence to all the parties involved that they have a third party fulfilling local international requirements and do what they have to do. Supply chain and visibility to the entire supply chains. And the third and most importantly, governance and visibility. Especially governance and visibility can give the confidence to the populations. And this is how projects like this can become feasible and sustainable.
So clearly, if those things are missing,
you have risks.
There's a lot of risks, a lot more risks. Okay. One risk, of course, in the energy transition is that it doesn't get enough attention. Is a competence gap. So we're potentially deploying technology faster than you can train people to build and inspect it safely. So from what you've seen across APAC in your 20-odd years long role at Lloyd's Register, LRQA, how do you feel? How real is that risk, and what does it actually cost projects when it materializes?
I mean, it is a real risk, especially at the stage where other APAC or Southeast Asia is, because if we want to look traditionally, we're mainly oil and gas or black energy, where we're doing the transition now to hydrogen, solar, carbon storage, carbon capture, wind, and even nuclear. There are conversations about nuclear.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to buy technology. It's very easy to buy equipment. But if you don't have technical engineers or technical technicians to be able to read the standards and support this, you're not going to be able to build it, or you're not going to be able to operate. Now, this is the risk. Now, at the same time, especially here in Singapore, we have seen that the NUS have run a course on hydrogen, which is fantastic. We have seen that a lot of companies, they're doing a lot of apprentices. Even within LRQA, we're doing apprentice. We're taking graduates, and for 1 or 2 years, we're training them to become future lead auditors, future lead engineers. And also, I mean, even when I go to Korea, which Korea is quite strong when it goes to nuclear, they do have engineering course about nuclear. Now, we still need to do a bit more, because from my perspective, there is a gap in the engineering aspect of 10 years, and we need to close this gap. Further on, we need to retrain the people that they were in different energy to come to work for wind, to come to work for solar or other energies. So it is a challenge, but organizations and governments are starting doing the right steps.
Yeah, I'd certainly echo your views on that, actually. There seems to be a constant shortage of especially fresh young minds coming into it. It's constantly it's super important. Our graduate hires every year are of utmost importance to us, as I'm sure they are to you. And I really like that, you know, your perspective on actually transitioning your workforce over time is like a really valid key point as well. Now, competence obviously is extremely important when there's higher consequences of getting it wrong. And you mentioned nuclear. You mentioned lots of technologies just then, actually, and I'd like to cover some of them. But nuclear energy. So 6 ASEAN countries are pursuing nuclear energy, and there's a mixture of timescales in this. So Vietnam and the Philippines are in active preparation, while Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia, and Singapore are at earlier stages of exploring it. Now, actually, none of these countries have ever operated a nuclear reactor commercially, and really keen to link it into LRQA. I'm aware that you've got lots of years in the nuclear history, and it was Cool to Hall first, if I'm not wrong, right? So yeah, I'd love to hear your views on.
Our experience on nuclear starts from the 1950s from the UK. So yes, we do have a lot of years of experience, and actually even now we are very active in Korea, and we're very active in UK, and we're expanding to other countries. Now, coming close to our home in Asia, or Southeast Asia, yes, indeed. I think it was March, it was March this year where Vietnam made the announcement to work with Russia and to start building 2 nuclear reactors. And also, we all know that in Philippines, there was a reactor that was built 40 years ago, but was never energized. And now they did activate a contract with KHMP, which is the Korean technology, in order to do an assessment and see if they can fire up the old reactor, because it's based on Korean technology. Now, the most important thing is that the Independent Atomic Energy Association's framework states clearly that to create nuclear technology, it's a journey of 10 to 15 years. I'm talking about conventional nuclear reactors, because you need to have the governance, you need to create the safety culture, and safety is not a paper exercise, it's the ability to stop and to call when something is not as safe. Then you need to create the awareness and, of course, the acceptance from the public. Now, when it goes to SMRs, which is the very big hot topic, there are a number of new technologies worldwide. SMR is going to be faster than a traditional nuclear reactor, and we might start seeing some SMRs. But for me, still, there is a lot of education needed. And going back to the previous question that we talked about competencies, we need to do a lot more about building the future competent people of the future.
And the safety culture is...
Safety and security. That's the other important thing, because these two are going together, because security within the nuclear technology is extremely important, because you can breach data, you can breach regulations, you can breach laws if you're not careful.
And from a regulatory oversight perspective, to look after safety and security, You mentioned governance. Is it like what other factors should go into the regulatory side to ensure the safety, ensure the security?
I mean, look, first of all, you need to build, if we're going to look what happened in the Middle East, in Baraka, the nuclear that they built less than 10 years ago.
Okay.
They start from zero. So they created the regulation framework. They created the local Atomic Energy Association within Middle East.
Okay.
And then they started building the technology around it. So they brought a lot of people, a lot of SMEs, and they started building all the pillars. And that's what I said, the IAEA says it's 10 to 15 years journey. So the first 5 years was let's build all the blocks, and then you start bringing the EPCs, the suppliers, and to start building the reactors.
Yeah.
So it's a journey. Now, when it goes to technologies, there are a number of technologies around the world. There is French, US, Korean, Russian, Chinese. Then, depending which technology the country will go, then they're going to follow the same safety framework. Because overall, they're regulated from the Independent Atomic Energy Association, all of them.
Yeah. And obviously, nuclear is one route. And another technology you mentioned was CCUS. So Malaysia's enacted CCUS legislation. Japan is actively planning to ship CO2 across to Southeast Asian storage sites.
That would be of interest.
Yeah, I'm sure. And Singapore has signed cross-border MOUs from with both Malaysia and Indonesia. So how does one actually verify this? And this is, I understand, something LRQA would be able to assist with. How does one actually verify that carbon's being captured, stored permanently when it crosses those international borders? And ultimately, who's bearing the responsibility for it?
And for me, this is the challenge today, and we don't have a solutions, because it's one thing to do carbon capture and storage in one location, but then when you're going to start transferring from point A to point B, it's becoming more complicated because, as I said before, there's no common language around the regulation framework. Now, the other thing which is very important within carbon capture or storage is what's the means that you're using it. If they are more dirty, are you on plus or minus? So if you're going to use heavy oil intensity facilities to do the carbon capture or storage, are you on plus or minus? And that hasn't been resolved. It's similar to the grid connectivity, because we have to connect electricity around the different countries. But then when you are mixing electricity produced by oil and gas facilities to renewables, what's the net benefit? So when it goes to carbon capture, we need a common language in order to know what you're doing. And also we need to start looking how you're doing the capture, storage, transportation, and what's the net benefit.
Yeah.
LRQA, yes, we do have the facilities to work with clients, and we are working in Asia very strong with a number of clients. And we are assisting because everybody wants to go towards net zero, and that's one of also the areas that they can do it.
So while some technologies like nuclear carry loads of risks, actually
it's more green.
Yes, and CCUS is often seen as a solution where you can continue using the same combustion technology, prolong it ultimately, but actually it's steeped in its own unknowns and risks and a different type.
For me personally, CCUS it used to be very close to my heart because I think I finished my degree 24 years ago. And my master's was on carbon capture, storage, and offloading. That was my thesis in my master.
Yeah.
Now, it took 25 years from a thesis to become a reality, but we have done progress. Now, we also need to start looking into some of the details of how point A to point B is being collected. And is it green or is it dirty?
Okay. So in your minds, it's doable.
It is doable. Yeah, it is doable.
Yeah. Yeah, very good. So, and speaking more about gases and different forms, we haven't covered hydrogen yet properly. And this is really important for Singapore because we have a national hydrogen strategy here, which sets out that it could supply up to half of the country's energy power needs by 2050. And and this has been an interesting journey. I think going back sort of 5 years, it was a very hot topic.
It was.
And it seems that we were really progressing on this. But actually, on a global level, there's been a huge wave of project cancellations in the last few years. And would really like to know where your thoughts are at with this, especially with, where is hydrogen in the economy in APAC today?
I think we're still at the very, very early days of hydrogen, and I will agree with you. Yeah, 5 years ago, it was, the amount of pipeline projects, they were unlimited.
Yeah.
But then we start seeing a scale down in terms of the size of the projects. And the reason for that is the complexity, the financing needed, and the engineering behind it. Now, Singapore has done a statement to be 50% by 2050.
Yeah.
And since 2024, I think they introduced that 30% of all the gas turbines that have to be hydrogen ready or to be able to retrofit it. So Singapore is doing steps towards this goal. We still see some smaller scale projects because the financing is not really guaranteed and the ROI. If I want to start looking two big projects, the only two that come to my mind is in Saudi Arabia, the NEOM, that is still into construction. And then in Australia, a hydrogen ammonia project, which is still in construction. If I want to start looking into Europe, there are a lot of smaller scale projects, and there are a lot of feasibility studies about facility to be able to be converted to hydrogen, or also pipelines, gas pipelines today connected between Europe and Africa. They're doing feasibility studies to be able to transfer hydrogen. So momentum is there, but not at the pace they used to be. And I will say simply because of the economics.
Yeah. And I suppose it really sounds like there is progress happening under the surface, as you've described. So your feeling is do you think we can get back to a similar rate of progression that we were 5 years ago?
Wow.
Or could that happen?
That's a great question.
Could we build more?
Personally, I feel that the energy is going to be a combination. It's going to be a combination of nuclear, hydrogen, renewables. It has to be a combination.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know which one is going to go faster. It's going to be the SMRs. It's going to be hydrogen. I don't know. I wish I knew.
So, with all these different energy technologies, and we've covered wind, nuclear, hydrogen, CCUS today, you're sitting at the intersection of all of these. And as a leader in the market, what's the hardest thing about maintaining consistent global standards when every market in the world is at a different point, and every technology is at a different point, I suppose?
Common language.
Yeah.
You're from UK, I'm from Greece, we're able to communicate in English, and we're both living in Singapore. So, but we do have a common language to work and do our business. What is missing today, even you're going to see mature market, they have very robust regulation framework. If you're going to see non-mature markets, the framework is not as robust. But then when you want an independent authority like LRQA or others, we have to inform an integrity framework. So I think common language is one thing that is missing across some of the technologies. Not all, but across some of the technologies. We capture nuclear, which is one language worldwide because of the risk associated. But when it goes to wind, there are different requirements for a wind onshore or offshore project, for example, in Europe than here. And then when you have suppliers that they want to move pieces or assets worldwide, they don't know what they have to do, and that creates challenges. Even when I look into the pressure equipment, which in Singapore, we have what is called MOM, the Ministry of Manpower pressure equipment requirements, where internationally you have ASME, which is the US, or in Europe, you have CE marking. There are three different standards, more or less the same. We need to start connecting them in order to help the supply chain to be able to go faster. So, I would say common language, and then, as we said before, more training and understanding.
Yeah, I can see. So, the points you raised, so this is a huge barrier which any emerging technology would have to face, right? Is there's just not the history of of standards and regulation in place?
No, we have all of those. We have all the standards.
Okay.
It's how they're going to country to country.
Okay, I see.
That's
how they're adopted.
The adoption of the standards.
Okay, so taking a new technology into a new country,
Correct.
the first projects are going to have a bumpy ride.
Of course, because it's a learning curve.
Yes.
Yes.
Of course.
And of course, always there have to be some flexibility within the interpretation of the standards.
Yes.
Otherwise, the project will never be going to the execution or completion.
Yeah. Brmazing. Well, I'd like to just bring this back to more Singapore businesses now. So for British businesses in Singapore and across the region thinking about the energy transition, they might be participants or as companies needing to verify their own sustainability claims. What should they be doing in 2026 and that they might not already be doing?
Talk to us, talk to LRQA. We can help you in this journey. I mean, start treating certification of sustainability as an element for the board, as a strategic initiative. Don't let it at the end. And this is where the challenge happens. I mean, and coming to Singapore, because we're working with a number of clients in Singapore that they want to become more sustainable, and they have to retrofit facilities that actually the cost to do the retrofit on facilities, it's higher than building something new. But then you cannot do that because in Singapore we don't have size, we don't have space. So you need to keep the production going and to do the retrofit at the same time. So for me, it's think of sustainability, have sustainability as a board conversation, thinking at the very beginning. And also with risk management, because it's not a tick exercise, because you're talking about cyber, you're talking about data, you're talking about emissions, you're talking about product identity, you're talking about management systems integrity. There's so many variables today that you need to address in order to continue being reputable, to continue being financed, and to continue having insurance.
Yeah.
Because all of them are getting connected.
Yeah. The British Chamber of Commerce does see the growth of a lot of businesses. And one thing that as BritCham, we're trying to achieve is to help those businesses establish their sustainability. And I guess part of that is making sure you have the right assurance policies and frameworks in place to do so.
Yeah.
So I guess with that, if anyone is listening and wants to understand what LRQA can do for them across Asia Pacific, where should they start?
I mean, they need to start, what is the risk that they need to address, or how they identify all the risks associated with their operations.
Yeah.
And then we're more than willing to have a conversation to help them on the journey of try to mitigate the risks and to make them sustainable business.
Yeah, fantastic. It's been really enjoyable speaking today, and I might just ask for a few closing remarks from you. Maybe I'd just start with what I kind of thought, and you can add to it and build on it. So, I mean, it's very clear listening to you that assurance is about building confidence, and one thing, building competence, we also talked about as well. But to be fair, there's no single organization, discipline or solution that can carry out the energy transition alone. And if we all actually do need to work together on this, and companies which offer assurance like yours, one important aspect of it. So if we can all work together, we can underpin a resilient outcome at the end. Projects may move fast, but face hidden risks if assurance just isn't embedded properly and early. So I feel like those are sort of the resonating points from you.
Of course, ultimately, the two things that you just mentioned, I can say, is all about building trust. Because we need to work all together to give trust and to create trust to our lenders, to the insurance, and most importantly, to the society.
Yeah.
For a company like Arup that is doing projects, for a company like LRQA that's supporting projects, and whoever is going to be the end owner operator.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Thanks.
Fotis, it's been a real pleasure.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for the invite.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of the British Chamber of Commerce Singapore's podcast channel. Before you go, Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a rating and review on Spotify, Apple, Google and other podcast platforms. If you enjoyed this episode, please spread the word by sharing it across your network. For more information about the Chamber and what we do, visit our website at www.britcham.org.sg and tune in next time for a brand new episode.